Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
He's here, kids. Dr. Robert Heineman, Alfred University Professor Emeritus. The latest on the Cathie Jung succession.
Yes. Well, it's heating up. I don't think there's any question about it. And there's some really kind of strange things and some things that it makes you wonder kind of where people are coming from. But it's very clear now that Mr. Flanagan from out there on Long Island and this guy Ashcroft from Broome County think they're going to control who is elected for the 57th district.
Now, wait a second. You're talking Fred Ashcroft, the Binghamton Republican state senator, and
yes,
State Senator John Flanagan, the GOP Senate leader.
Right. Hold it. He's not the Senate leader anymore, Brian.
The GOP Senate leader.
Oh, okay. Well put, because his finesse in running the election led to one of the biggest losses the Republicans, I think, have ever had in the state
Who took over
Senate.
for Cathie Jung when Flanagan took that job away from Jung?
I think Ashcroft. Is that the guy's name? The guy from Binghamton?
Fred.
Yeah, took over. So in any case, it's pretty clear that they're not happy with Mr. Crandall running as a candidate for the 57th seat. And it's also, I think, pretty clear that they want to wipe out any kind of support remaining for Cathie Jung. They don't only want to have encouraged her to step down, but they want to punish those of us who have been strong supporters and are very pleased with the service she gave us. So they've picked this guy Borrello,
George Borrello,
from
Chautauqua County Executive.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Who was just elected Chautauqua County Executive last year. So he's in his 13th or 14th month of being county executive and has decided now he wants to be New York State Senator from the 57th District. And people just kind of shake their heads. I mean, this guy's apparently a retired businessman, I guess fairly wealthy. We have a little map showing his hometown, which is way up in northwestern Chautauqua County, and as somebody pointed out, he's much closer to St. Catharines, Ontario than he is to Dansville, New York. It's like 2.5, 3 hours from where he is. So, and Mr. Crandall, of course, is really centrally located. But be that as it may, the Jamestown, what is it, the Post-Journal? Is that the name of it? The Post-Journal yesterday carried a story quoting Mr. Borrelli as saying that he had the endorsement of the 4 county chairs if a special election was called. Well, the problem with that, Mr. Borrelli, is a special election has not been called by the governor, and we are proceeding with petitions to move toward the June 25th primary. But Mr. Borrello apparently, and according to, again, the Jamestown Post-Dispatch, but what is it, Post-Journal? Post-Journal. Quotes him as saying he wasn't aware that there was anyone else circulating petitions or running. Now that is just strange, because at the Cuba meeting that they had last week, Mr. Crandall laid out the fact, made it clear that he was circulating petitions, and that was what he was going to do. But moreover, Wednesday evening, Mr. Powers, the interim chair in Livingston County, after having suggesting to all his committee people that there was really one candidate, Mr. Borrello, was encouraged to have both candidates appear before the committeemen. So Borrello knew at that point that Crandall was going to be appearing with him as well. So why he would say that he wasn't aware there was any other candidate, I mean, it's really, to put it mildly, to be generous to him, a disingenuous statement, and trying to give the impression that somehow over in Jamestown and that he's the only candidate in the race. That's just strange. So in any case,
little power struggle going on behind the scenes here that you're making public.
well, that's what we're here for, Brian, to let the people. But in any case, somehow Mr. Flanagan thinks that the Republicans are going to recover, and he's trying to maintain some sort of power base here, out here in Western New York by pushing this fellow Borrello. And I don't know. I think the guy is a very decent guy. Don't get me wrong at all there.
Borrello.
Yeah. But the geography is certainly not in his favor by any means. And I think the people in Cattaraugus, Allegheny, and Livingston County get a little unhappy when Mr. Flanagan is trying to suggest that they should pick this person and not that person. So we'll see how it plays. I think the real big thing to be concerned about is how they play it in Albany, and so we got to get a lot of signatures on petitions for Mr. Crandall, and then turn them into the State Board of Elections, and that's where the fireworks, I think, will begin.
Do we know where Cuomo stands on any of this?
Yes, no, I have no idea. Although you do raise an interesting question, for once. I'm sorry. The point I would make here on the what happens in Albany, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think Flanagan will turn loose his minions, to challenge our petitions. But the courts have been pretty good about allowing people to get on the ballot, so we'll just have to see how that plays. But yeah, the Cuomo point, the Democrats in the meantime have decided to push this fellow from Freedom, New York, which is just over the border into Cattaraugus County from Allegheny, 22-year-old who is working on his bachelor's degree
at Cornell over in Ithaca.
Cornell, yes. And my people say that he's kind of the protege of one of the de Blasio state senators from the city, and so that's just strange. I thought they had a lady from Cattaraugus County Legislature who was pretty well thought of. Frankly, I thought, there might be a shot there for the Democrats, but apparently she's backed off. And so this guy, Morgan, I think is his name. Is it Austin Morgan? Morgan is his last name.
Yeah, I have a question on this.
Yes.
Why is it that the New York City Democrats would care about a candidate for the Democrats for this seat that represents Allegheny, Livingston, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus counties, and why do the Long Island Republicans care so much? I mean, I understand that they wanted Young out because Young stood up to Flanagan, and there was political payback there, but why do they care so much about somebody from Chautauqua County being in that seat?
Those are good questions, Brian. And the thing with your last question is, I have the feeling, but I don't know, but I have the feeling, and I would bet that Mr. Borrello has poured a lot of money into the Republican coffers, and so they're going to pay some attention to what he has to say. As for Mr. Morgan and the Democrats downstate, I don't know. I guess maybe ideologically he fits pretty well with these guys. I'm not sure. But also, the Democrats are pulling in money hand over fist now that they've taken a huge majority in the New York State Senate.
And they want that seat too.
They want that seat too, but they want to force the Republicans to spend more of their money to have to run. But I 22-year-old guy.
Do we know what Ed Cox thinks of any of this?
I have no idea.
The state GOP chair.
No, I have no idea where he stands, and that we may be talking to him here. Yeah.
Dr. Bob, this is all very interesting. I have to say, Senator Young set the bar pretty high.
Yes.
And, great news generator. But besides that, and that's just selfish on my part, excellent state senator, great on constituent services,
yes.
Showing up at the little schools as far away from her as they would be.
Right.
For the graduations and the speeches and all that stuff. I mean, some big shoes to be filling for whoever does that.
Right. And the other side of it too is, of course, that she did a tremendous job of keeping control of the state Senate, and was running the races for the state Senate for 1 or 2 or 3 elections anyway, successfully. But no, it's going to be very tough, and the concern about having the guy from Chautauqua County as a state senator, the chances of seeing him more than once or twice a year are, not high at all. Whereas, as you say, Cathie Jung, wherever there's any opportunity, she was there. And
now, when Eric Massa had his downfall, Randy Cool kind of put out feelers to see what kind of reaction there would be to him coming back, and that was when Tom Reed was
right. That's
still
correct.
out there. If Flanagan has any kind of downfall, do you see Young coming back, or is she going to stay with Cornell?
Well, the thing, you're absolutely right. Randy Cool was considered making a bit of a comeback, but yeah, I don't know how that plays. You would hope somebody with Young's ability as a candidate and as a public figure could show up again, but I think right now she's going to kind of play the role as a number of great leaders have played over the years, and just sort of dropped out of
sight.
Churchill, De Gaulle, and I can name others.
Sure.
I don't know if she goes quite that high, but nonetheless, probably better to just take a low profile for a while.
Got it. Hey, Doc, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back right after this.
Well, I hope so. Golly.
It's amazing but true. When it comes to one of America's biggest household expenditures, healthcare, a lot of people think they've got no choice. People are used to thinking we have to do it this way, but they don't. Yes, you have the freedom to choose an alternative with your healthcare. It's MediShare, and it costs way less than the alternatives. The typical family saves $500 a month, not a year, a month. And if you're single, this can save you a lot too. And let's face it, a big reason MediShare is 400,000 people strong, it just works. They've shared over $3 billion in medical bills, so they can help share your needs too. Joining MediShare for so many people is one of those things that makes you say, why didn't I do this before? So yes, the time has come for something better. Look into joining MediShare and see why so many people are opting out of the old way and into the new. Why not look into this? Just call 877-26-BIBLE. That's 877-26-BIBLE. 877-26-BIBLE.
Back with Dr. Bob.
Yes.
Okay, Democrats running against Trump. My first question there is, Biden came out, Quinnipiac came out in a poll where Biden comes out number 1 with New York State residents. What do you make of that poll? What do you make of Biden's chances?
Well, as we've said before, Biden in many ways would be the superior candidate. It's fascinating. There's no two ways about it. He's taking this woman from Georgia, what's her name, Stacey Abrams or something like that, as an early VP pick. That's probably a bad idea. Not that I got anything against Stacey Abrams, not that I got anything for her, but to do that this soon, I think is not a good idea. But on the other hand, he's trying somehow to tie into that Obama African American constituency there that served Obama so well, and Stacey Abrams may play to that. I don't know. But I think what's really fascinating about this is all these people coming forward to declare that they're candidates for the presidency, and you got some really strange people bouncing around out there, and increasingly people they're kind of giving the Democrats this kind of weird hue of ideological populism, radicalism, identity politics. I don't know what you want to call it, but they've pulled them in for it. It kind of reminds you when McGovern was nominated. The Democratic convention had to have so many this, so many that. This identity politics is kind of taking control of the whole process for the Democrats, And, at this point, I believe they're talking about having 2 days of debates because they have so many candidates. Now, if I were Biden, I wouldn't debate. I wouldn't take part in that. I'd just say, yeah, guys, go at it. I'll watch you from home. I'll get you some Cracker Jacks and a glass of beer, I don't know, and kind of watch what's going on. If I were Biden, I wouldn't go anywhere near it because it just gives the whole thing is going to be wild. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how this works its way out here. But I don't think there's any question. You've got what is it, Beto, and now the CNN is playing up this mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who is wherever he goes is really quite dynamic. Well, that's great. Then you've got a whole range of people there that I don't think are terribly representative of Middle America. So it does cast this whole kind of circus motif onto the Democrat Party, and so.
Dr. Bob, there was a lot of talk this week about Trump talking about the late Senator John McCain. I think the Drudge Report had a good headline, Trump battles ghost of McCain. What did you make of that whole kerfluffle?
I have no idea. I have no idea what the problem with Trump is, and I don't think the Democrats have exploited this quite as much as they might. Anybody says anything that goes against him, the guy's out blasting away, so it's easy to get him tossing out all kinds of nasty comments, I just don't understand it. I mean, that's just strange.
You know what you learned from this, though?
What?
From listening to the callers who call it in. I realize that's not a scientific poll, but it does say something. The establishment types come out and say, how dare Trump say anything about the late John McCain?
Right.
And the callers on these talk shows call up and say, hey, wait a second. McCain passed that phony dossier about Trump along, circulated all over the place. Why are you defending McCain?
Oh, I can see. All right, well, that undoubtedly has Trump has a good reason there. McCain is an American hero. What he did during the Vietnamese War, I think, is courageous and heroic. But as a political leader, I don't know. He certainly moved back and forth. You weren't quite sure where he was going to come down. So it's kind of frustrating to, obviously, a president and to the more conservative members of the party. On the other hand, as a human being, he was pretty decent fellow. So I don't know why Trump, maybe it is that pushing these rumors and things against Trump. I don't know. And again, we got to wait for the Mueller report here, Brian.
Yes. I had a question here. Trump, and this is reading from the UK Daily Mail, link to it from the Drudge Report. Trump says the U.S. should recognize the Golan Heights as part of Israel, as Netanyahu accuses Iran of trying to set up a terror network in Iran. Trump insists the move has nothing to do with saving Bibi's re-election hopes. Your thoughts, Dr. Bob?
No, I don't think that's true. I think it is an attempt to give Netanyahu more support. I think the other side of it is that there's not much Syria can do about the Golan Heights right now. So in terms of tying those down tightly to for the Israelis, this might be the time to do it. And of course, the Golan Heights is an area there. I don't know, is it north, west of Israel, wherever, where have been used to serve as missile sites and things of that sort for bombarding Israel. So taking them completely under Israeli control would increase the security, I think, of Israel without any question. And I don't think Syria is in any position to do much about it at this point.
Before we go, I should ask you about George Conway.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
who is George Conway?
George Conway, the wife of Kellyanne Conway.
The wife of...
the husband, excuse me, Dr. Bob.
All right.
Okay, so George Conway puts out a Twitter post, a tweet as they call him, that said that it listed a bunch of psychiatric diagnoses and accused Trump of all of them. Trump shot back and, basically, I can't remember word for word, but basically that he's a nightmare of a husband, that George Conway is a nightmare of a husband, and that he's jealous of his wife's success, and that all the fuss in Washington and talk is over Kellyanne Conway, and George isn't getting enough attention. Does Trump have a point, or what do you think?
I think the whole thing's a pretty sick situation, frankly. So I like Kellyanne Conway. I think she does really quite a fine job in to put it mildly, unsettled situation. But her marital situation, goodness, I'm not about to. Yeah, it sort of reminds me of the Carter administration there, where you had Billy Carter running around and all these other. It's getting a little out of hand there. And
Wasn't there Roger Clinton in the Bill Clinton years?
But Trump really hasn't really started it. This guy Conway has been banging on him and smearing him for a long, long time. He just doesn't like Donald Trump.
That's all nice, but who's the one looking for attention, really?
Yeah, no, right. No question about it.
George Conway.
Right. It's weird. And it's one of those situations where you wonder, you think you're much better off if Trump hadn't said anything, but you just can't control him that way. It's amazing the United States is doing so well domestically and internationally. There's something going on there. I mean, Trump has some idea what he's doing, I guess. I leave you with that, Brian.
Dr. Bob, we got to go.
I guess, yeah.